The explorers had arrived on the alien planet weeks ago. Their mission was simple: to study the strange creatures and the environment of this far-off world. But there was one creature they had been warned about, a terrifying beast that ruled the land. The apex predator. This creature was massive, with scales as black as night and claws that could tear through metal. It moved with the precision and grace of a hunter, never making a sound as it stalked its prey. No one dared to go near it, and the native species on the planet had long learned to avoid the creature at all costs. Everyone knew that the apex predator was not to be messed with, but one human in the group, a young explorer named Adam, wasn't afraid. He was known for his bravado and daring nature, always looking for the next thrill, always willing to take risks. While the rest of the crew stayed back, nervously watching from a distance, Adam's curiosity got the best of him. "We need to get close," Adam said, his voice filled with excitement. The rest of the group looked at him, stunned. "We can't just leave without knowing how this creature behaves. We've got to study it up close." The others shook their heads. "Are you crazy?" Sarah, the team's scientist, asked, her voice shaking. "The apex predator is dangerous. No one has ever been able to get close without being killed." Adam just smiled. He was always the one to push the limits, to test the boundaries. "I've got a plan. Just trust me." He made his way to the edge of the dense forest, where the predator had been spotted earlier. The ground was soft, and every step Adam took made a small sound. He was careful, trying to move as quietly as possible. Though he knew the creature's senses were far superior to his. His heart raced, but his mind was focused. He had done this before, taking on dangerous animals in his own world, but this was different. This was a creature from a distant planet, one that no human had ever seen so closely. Adam's crew watched from a safe distance, their eyes wide with fear and disbelief. They knew how dangerous this was, but they couldn't stop him. He was already too far into the woods. Adam moved cautiously, every sense on high alert. The air was thick with the smell of damp earth, and the low hum of the forest seemed to grow louder with each passing second. He could feel the tension in the air, as if the entire forest was holding its breath. Suddenly, there was a rustling in the bushes. The ground vibrated beneath his feet. Adam froze, his heart skipping a beat. The predator was close. He could feel its presence, like a shadow creeping up on him. And then, he saw it. The apex predator stepped into view, its eyes glowing with an eerie yellow light. Its scales shimmered in the dappled sunlight, and its massive form towered above the trees. The creature had stopped moving, its head tilted, its eyes locked onto Adam's. It was studying him. Curious but cautious, Adam stood motionless, his breath coming in slow, controlled gasps. The creature's powerful muscles rippled under its skin as it slowly circled, eyes never leaving Adam. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. The predator was so close, Adam could hear its low growls, feel the vibrations of its movements. And yet, he didn't flinch. He stood there, facing down the most terrifying creature on the planet, his mind racing with thoughts of survival, but also excitement. This was exactly what he had come for, the challenge. He took a step forward, slowly, deliberately. The predator watched, its muscles tensing as if it was ready to strike. Adam felt his heartbeat quicken, but he didn't back down. Instead, he grinned. This was it. This was his moment. And with that grin, the challenge began. The creature's instincts told it to attack, to eliminate the threat. But something strange happened. It didn't. It paused, as if unsure of what to do next. Adam knew the stakes were high. If the predator decided to pounce, there was no escape. But for now, he had succeeded in something few others could even dream of. He had caught its attention. The rest of the team watched in stunned silence, their mouths agape. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. Adam was standing face to face with the apex predator, and yet, he wasn't running. He wasn't scared. He was challenging it. And in that moment, they all realized this was no ordinary human. The air was thick with tension, and the silence hung over the scene like a heavy fog. Would Adam back down, or would he take the challenge to the next level? Everyone waited, unsure of what would happen next. Adam stood frozen, his heart pounding as the apex predator circled him. The creature's golden eyes glimmered, its massive body rippling with power. It was testing him, analyzing him. The air around them seemed to thicken with a mixture of fear and curiosity, and for a moment, the world around them faded into silence. The only sounds were the heavy, controlled breaths of the predator and Adam's heartbeat echoing in his ears. Every instinct told Adam to run, to turn and flee as fast as he could. But he didn't. He couldn't. This was his moment. The one he had been waiting for, the challenge of a lifetime. As the predator moved closer, Adam remained perfectly still. His eyes never left its glowing gaze, his hands at his sides, fingers twitching with anticipation. He had no weapon, no defense, nothing but his wits and sheer willpower. He knew this creature could snap him in half with a single strike, but it hadn't yet. It was waiting, testing his resolve. Slowly, deliberately, Adam bent down, picking up a rock from the ground. He tossed it in the air, watching as it flipped end over end before landing with a soft thud a few feet away from the predator. The creature's attention shifted to the rock, its head tilting with curiosity. Adam used this distraction to take a few steps back, his movements fluid, graceful. The predator didn't move. It was watching him, its eyes narrowed. It was learning. Adam grinned. This wasn't just about survival anymore, it was about control. He had the creature's attention, and now he intended to have some fun with it. He tossed another rock, this one further to the side, watching the predator's reaction. The creature's body tensed, its muscles rippling as it pounced, landing on the ground with a heavy thud. But instead of attacking Adam, it was more interested in the rock. Its frustration grew as it pawed at the ground, trying to find the source of the distraction. For a moment, Adam felt a rush of exhilaration. He had done it. He had gotten the apex predator to chase after something as simple as a rock. But there was no time to celebrate. The creature's eyes snapped back to him, and its growls grew louder, more threatening. It wasn't going to let this continue for long. Adam took a deep breath. He had to be smarter, faster. He had to stay one step ahead. With a swift motion, he darted to his left, just out of reach of the predator's claws. The creature growled in frustration, spinning around to face him. Its body was a blur of motion, its teeth bared, its jaw snapping as if it were trying to bite through the very air itself. But Adam was faster. He dodged again, a laugh escaping his lips. It was like a game, and the predator was finally beginning to realize that it wasn't in control. Every movement felt like it was in slow motion as Adam taunted the creature. He made quick, unpredictable moves, stepping to one side and then the other, staying just out of reach. The predator's anger grew, but its instinct to attack was clouded by its confusion. It couldn't figure out what this human was doing. How was he not afraid? How was he not running for his life? Adam's grin widened as he continued to outmaneuver the beast. His mind raced with thoughts of how to keep this going, how to push the predator even further. The rest of the team, watching from a distance, couldn't believe their eyes. They had expected to see a struggle, a fight for survival, but this was something else entirely. Adam wasn't fighting the creature, he was playing with it. The predator let out a frustrated roar, and for the first time, it seemed unsure of what to do next. Adam stopped, standing perfectly still, almost daring the creature to attack. The predator hesitated. It had never faced an opponent like this before. This human was something different, something it couldn't comprehend. And for the first time, it wasn't in control of the situation. Adam's pulse raced with excitement. But there was no fear. He had taken the first step. The game had begun. The predator's eyes glowed with a dangerous intensity as it circled Adam, its muscles tense, coiled like a spring ready to explode. Adam could feel the air thickening, charged with the creature's raw energy. It was more than just a test of physical prowess now. This was a battle of wills, and Adam knew he couldn't afford to make a mistake. He stood still, his gaze locked onto the predator. His heart hammered in his chest, but his mind was clear. He was playing a game, and in this game, the rules were his own. Every instinct told him to run, to escape while he still had the chance. But he pushed those thoughts aside. He wasn't afraid. Not anymore. Not with the predator hesitating like this, unsure of what to make of him. The creature stopped in its tracks, its massive head tilting as if considering him. Adam saw the hesitation in its movements, the confusion in its eyes. For the first time, the predator seemed uncertain, and that was all Adam needed. He made his move. With lightning speed, Adam darted to the left, just out of the predator's reach. The creature snarled in frustration, its claws scraping against the earth as it tried to keep up. But Adam was already ahead. He leaped onto a nearby rock, his body light and agile, using it as a springboard to launch himself to the other side. The predator roared, its rage building, and charged forward with terrifying speed. But Adam was faster. He rolled to the ground, his body twisting as he landed gracefully, rolling into a crouch and springing back to his feet in one fluid motion. The predator skidded to a halt just inches from him, its jaws snapping shut. Adam's eyes widened in exhilaration. He was outmaneuvering the apex predator. He was winning. But the creature wasn't done yet. It let out a guttural growl, its eyes flashing with fury. It wasn't going to stop, and neither was Adam. He grinned, feeling a rush of adrenaline. He could hear his crew, the whispers of disbelief and awe as they watched the spectacle unfold. He had them on edge, but more than that, he had the predator on the defensive. The mighty creature was no longer in control. It was reacting to Adam, not the other way around. Adam leaped again, his feet hitting the ground with a light thud. He moved in a blur, staying one step ahead of the creature's snapping jaws. It was becoming clear that the predator didn't know how to respond to this new kind of threat. The predator's frustration grew with every failed attempt to catch him. Its movements became more erratic, its growls deeper and more threatening. But it couldn't land a blow. Adam's confidence grew, and he could feel the tide of the encounter turning. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was dominating the beast. And that's when he saw it, the predator's once pristine, confident aura starting to crack. The creature, which had always been the apex of power, was now the one who was desperate. It was no longer a terrifying force of nature. It was a cornered animal, struggling to understand how it had lost control so completely. Adam's grin widened, but he wasn't finished. Not yet. He was going to finish this, make the creature realize who was truly in charge. With every move, he chipped away at the predator's invincibility, slowly but surely turning the tables. And with each passing moment, the predator's dominance slipped further and further out of reach. Adam was in control now, and it felt damn good. The air around them crackled with tension. As the predator's frustration grew to a near boiling point, its massive body rippled with power, but for the first time in its life, it wasn't the one calling the shots. Adam stood in front of it, the unlikeliest of predators, calmly sizing it up, completely unbothered by its fury. The creature lunged again, its massive jaws snapping shut in a terrifying display of teeth and strength. But Adam wasn't there. He was already to the side, his body fluid and quick, weaving through the dense foliage like a shadow. The predator's claws scraped the ground, missing him by mere inches. The creature let out a deafening roar of frustration, its primal instinct screaming for it to finish what it had started, to claim its dominance. But Adam wasn't just dodging. He was playing a dangerous game of cat and mouse, making the predator chase him, leading it further and further away from the rest of the team. His movements were smooth, almost effortless, as if he had been doing this for years. And in a way, he had. He had always been the kind of person who sought out the most extreme challenges, always hungry for the next adrenaline rush. But this was different. The stakes were higher. The creature he was facing wasn't some wild animal. It was a force of nature, a living embodiment of power. And yet, Adam was winning. He knew this moment would be etched in his memory forever. And part of him reveled in the thrill of outsmarting a creature that had once been invincible. But that wasn't enough. He wanted more. He wanted the predator to understand its place in the pecking order, to feel the sting of humiliation. This wasn't just about survival, it was about control. The predator made another swipe, this time faster, more calculated. Its claws tore through the air, but Adam anticipated the move and sidestepped with a laugh, his body dancing out of the way. The beast roared again, the sound echoing through the forest like a primal scream. But Adam didn't flinch. He had its attention, and it was no longer the one leading the dance. For a moment, there was silence. The predator stopped, its breathing heavy, its chest rising and falling with each labored inhale. It stared at Adam, its mind racing to understand why it couldn't catch him. Why this human, so small, so fragile, was able to outmaneuver it. The creature was not accustomed to doubt. It was not accustomed to being prey. Adam took a step forward, slowly, his movements almost teasing, a grin on his face. The predator's eyes flit between his face and his feet, waiting for him to make the first move. It was a game of wills now, and Adam was in complete control. The beast hesitated again, its instinctual drive clashing with its confusion. It couldn't decide whether to attack or retreat, and in that moment of uncertainty, Adam knew he had won. With a final taunting motion, Adam stepped closer, his foot barely grazing the creature's massive claws as he pivoted away. The predator let out a frustrated growl, but it was too late. The spark of dominance it had once exuded was fading. It was no longer the king of the jungle. It was just another creature caught in the webs of Adam's game. The rest of the crew watched in stunned silence, unable to comprehend what they were seeing. Adam wasn't just surviving. He was rewriting the rules of the jungle. The apex predator was no longer the apex. It was just another player in Adam's arena. And the power had shifted. The predator's once imposing stature now seemed to shrink under the weight of its own confusion. Its movements grew sluggish, its powerful limbs dragging with a mixture of frustration and disbelief. It was as if the creature couldn't comprehend what had happened. Every instinct, every ounce of its predatory nature screamed at it to strike, to dominate, but instead, it found itself outpaced by a human. Adam watched with a glint of amusement in his eyes. As the predator circled, its massive body a blur of motion, it was no longer the fearless hunter that had once ruled this land. Now it was just a beast, desperately trying to reassert its control. Adam knew it had to be tiring, being caught in a mental and physical game it had never signed up for. And yet, he wasn't done yet. The thrill of this power, of taking the reins of the situation, was intoxicating. But he had a point to prove. He moved toward the predator once more, but this time, his steps were deliberate, slow. He wasn't just playing with it now, he was showing it. Adam wanted the creature to understand that it wasn't the one calling the shots anymore. It wasn't the apex predator, it was just another animal, forced to obey the one who had the upper hand. The predator paused, watching him with suspicion. Its golden eyes flickered between Adam and the forest around them, trying to gauge the next move. It had been taught to track, to hunt, to dominate, but now it was uncertain. Its body quivered, muscles tensing, its claws digging into the earth, as if it was trying to hold onto its place as the top predator. But it was slipping. Adam's grin widened as he took another step closer, feeling the shift in the air, the moment where the predator realized it wasn't going to win this. There was something beautiful in the way the beast hesitated, unsure. It was no longer the creature everyone feared. It was no longer the unstoppable force of nature. It was a prey, a target, a being caught in the web of its own doubt. The team, still watching from a distance, was now at a loss for words. They had expected the predator to attack, to overpower Adam in one swift strike, but instead, it was the predator that was on the defensive. The human, small, fragile, and seemingly insignificant, had broken through its walls. For the first time, the beast's eyes darted toward the humans watching from the tree line. It could sense the shift in the balance of power. It could feel the eyes of those who had once feared it now watching with awe and disbelief. Adam had become something greater than a survivor. He had become an embodiment of something the predator couldn't grasp, a force that could not be ignored. Adam could feel the power in the silence, the stillness that had settled around them. The predator wasn't just confused, it was afraid. It was realizing that it had met something more dangerous than its fangs and claws. It had met a human who refused to be afraid. The moment stretched on, thick with tension. Adam's eyes never left the predator, but his heart was calm. This was no longer a fight for survival. This was about breaking the illusion of power that the predator had built for itself. And in this silence, Adam knew that the beast had already lost. The predator took one last step back, its head low, its posture no longer proud. It was defeated not by strength, but by something far more dangerous, the human's ability to outthink, outmaneuver, and break its spirit. And with that, the predator turned away, retreating into the dense forest, leaving Adam standing alone in the open. The human had won, and in that victory, the balance of power had irrevocably shifted. The predator's retreat was slow, as if it couldn't quite grasp the reality of what had just transpired. Its massive form melted into the shadows of the dense forest, its once proud stance now humbled. Adam stood motionless, watching the creature fade into the distance, the silence of the moment settling over the forest like a heavy fog. For a heartbeat, nothing moved except Adam's breath, steady and calm. The rest of the team was still frozen in disbelief, their eyes locked on Adam, unsure whether to approach or stay where they were. They had watched a human, a single, unarmed figure, defy the very laws of nature and outwit a creature that had been the apex of this world for eons. In a way, they couldn't believe what they had seen. It was like witnessing an impossible dream come to life, something beyond the realm of reason. Adam finally broke the stillness, a quiet chuckle escaping his lips. He turned to face his crew, their faces a mix of awe and astonishment. "Well, that was fun," he said with a grin, his tone casual as if he had just finished a regular stroll through the woods. Rather than facing off with one of the most terrifying creatures known to mankind, that no one laughed. No one spoke. They just stared at him, still processing the impossible. Sarah, the scientist, was the first to find her voice. "Adam, that was unreal," she said, her voice trembling. "That thing was supposed to be unstoppable. You were just toying with it. How did you?" Adam raised a hand, cutting her off. He wasn't interested in hearing the endless questions they had. They would never understand. How could they? "It's all about control," Adam said simply, his eyes flicking back toward the forest where the predator had disappeared. "That thing wasn't unbeatable. It was just convinced it was. But it's no different from any other animal. It reacts, it hunts, but it doesn't think. It doesn't adapt the way humans do." He paused, letting the words hang in the air. The rest of the team exchanged uncertain glances. They weren't just processing the danger Adam had faced, they were trying to understand how he had shifted the entire balance of power in a way they had never imagined possible. Adam moved slowly, walking toward the edge of the forest where the predator had been moments before. His steps were measured, calculated, as if he was savoring the aftermath of the moment. He looked back at his team. "Fear's a funny thing," Adam continued. "It's what gives power to things like that predator. But once you stop being afraid, it loses its strength. It's just a creature, nothing more. We put it on a pedestal, but it's not invincible. Not when you know how to push its buttons." The crew remained silent, each of them processing Adam's words in their own way. Some were still afraid, unable to shake the vision of the apex predator, while others were beginning to realize the truth of what he had said. The predator was dangerous, yes, but it was also just another part of the world. And Adam had mastered it. Adam didn't look back as he led the team back toward their camp, his steps confident, purposeful. There was no fear in him now. He had faced the impossible and won. But more than that, he had proven something to them all, that the line between predator and prey wasn't as fixed as they had thought. It was a game of wits, and for now, Adam held the winning hand. As they made their way back to camp, Adam's mind wandered, the excitement of the challenge still alive in his veins. There would be more challenges ahead, more creatures, more dangers, but for now, he knew one thing for certain when it came to surviving in this world. It wasn't about being the strongest, it was about being the smartest. And as he had just proved, humans could do that better than anyone. The campfire crackled softly, the only sound that filled the otherwise quiet night. Adam sat on a log, staring into the flames as they danced and flickered. The events of the day seemed almost surreal now, a dream that hung in the air like the smoke rising from the fire. The rest of the team gathered around, still processing what they had witnessed. Some were visibly shaken, others in awe, but all were united in the same sense of disbelief. They had all seen the predator, the creature that had terrorized the planet for centuries, retreat, humbled by a human who had dared to challenge it. Adam's mind was calm, clear. He had expected this reaction. People didn't understand how a human could best something like that. They thought the predator was a force of nature, unstoppable, a creature that ruled by sheer power. But Adam had seen through that illusion. It wasn't power that made a predator dangerous, it was fear. And once he had stripped that away, the beast was no different from any other animal. It had its instincts, but it lacked the one thing Adam had: control. The rest of the team, though, hadn't seen it that way. Sarah, who had been the most vocal in her concerns, was sitting quietly next to him now, staring into the fire. Her eyes were still wide with disbelief. She opened her mouth as if to speak, but then hesitated. Adam glanced over at her, noticing the way her hands were clenched tightly in her lap. "You don't get it, do you?" Adam said softly, breaking the silence. That creature was only dangerous because everyone believed it was. Sarah looked at him, her expression still a mix of awe and confusion. "But Adam, it was huge. Its claws, its teeth, it could have ripped you apart in seconds." Adam nodded slowly, his gaze still locked on the flickering flames. "Yeah, it could have, but it didn't, and that's the point. Fear makes us believe that power is something we can't control, but it's just an illusion. A big, scary monster doesn't get to decide who survives, not unless we let it." The words hung in the air for a moment before Sarah finally spoke, her voice quieter than before. "So what now? We just go back and tell everyone we defeated the apex predator? That we beat it with nothing more than a few tricks?" Adam chuckled softly, shaking his head. "It wasn't about beating it, Sarah. It was about showing everyone, including that predator, that we don't have to bow down to fear. That's what gives us the edge. It's not about brute force, it's about knowing how to use what you've got. And that's what I did today. I used what I had: my mind, my patience, and my ability to read the situation. The predator may have been bigger, but I was smarter, and that made all the difference." The others sat in stunned silence, absorbing his words. Adam wasn't boasting, he was simply stating the truth. For all their technology, their advanced weapons, and their training, it had come down to a simple truth. In the end, humans had the power to control the world around them, to survive even the most impossible challenges. The predator had been a formidable opponent, but it had never stood a chance against someone who refused to be controlled by fear. As the fire crackled and the night grew darker, Adam stood up, stretching his limbs. He could see the stars overhead, so clear and bright, as if the universe itself was watching, listening. He could feel the weight of the moment, the sense of something larger than himself unfolding. The predator had been a test, a challenge to his ability to adapt, to think on his feet, and he had passed. "This isn't just about surviving," Adam said, his voice low but confident. "It's about showing everyone that we humans are capable of so much more than they think. We're not just survivors. We're the ones who shape the world around us." With that, he turned away from the fire and began walking toward the edge of the camp. Behind him, the team remained silent, still processing the profound shift that had occurred. Adam knew they would never look at the world or themselves the same way again. And as he walked into the night, a smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. There would be more challenges ahead. But now, Adam knew one thing for certain: humans had the power to face them all. And they would do it with their minds, not just their strength.